Hello, sir.
Namaste, Grahya. How are you?
I'm fine, sir. Last round, lo, you have given us a lot of inputs about ideas and how to filter them out. ఈ stage లో I have questions about how to run a startup. ఎందుకంటే నేను కూడా individual గా ఇప్పుడు ఒక next few months లో like my startup would be officially out there. So నాకు కొన్ని questions ఉన్నాయి in terms of ఎలా రన్ చేయాలి అన్నది ఒక పార్ట్ అయితే, ఎలా టీమ్ ని బిల్డ్ చేయాలన్నది ఒక పార్ట్ అయితే, ఎలా ఫండింగ్ రైజ్ చేసుకోవాలి అని. సో ఫస్ట్ సెగ్మెంట్ కి వెళ్దాం అనుకుంటున్నాను. సో ఫస్ట్ దాంట్లో లైక్ నాకు కనిపించే ఒక బేసిక్ ప్రాబ్లం ఏంటి అంటే, నా స్టార్టింగ్ స్టేజ్ ఆఫ్ స్టార్ట్అప్ ఏంటి అంటే లైక్ కాంపిటీషన్స్ చాలా ఎక్కువ ఉంది ఇప్పుడు. లైక్ ఎవ్రీథింగ్ ఈజ్ లైక్ వెరీ కాంపిటేటివ్. లైక్ ఇప్పుడు ఎలా ఉన్నారు అని అంటే, వన్స్ ఇఫ్ సంబడి ఈస్ దేర్ విత్ ద బిజినెస్, వేరే వాళ్ళని పెనెట్రేట్ అవ్వనివ్వరు అంత ఈజీగా అయితే. అది నేను నోటీస్ చేశాను. సో లైక్
కాంపిటీషన్ తో డీల్ చేయడం అనేది డిఫరెంట్ స్టేజెస్ ఆఫ్ స్టార్ట్అప్ లో డిఫరెంట్ టైప్స్ లో చేయాల్సి వస్తుంది అనమాట. ఫర్ ఎగ్జాంపుల్, if you are still developing the idea and there are two other teams or two other groups of people who are also working on similar ideas, అలాంటప్పుడు ఏమవుతుందంటే వాళ్లకు మీకు ఫండింగ్ బికమ్స్ ఏ కాంపిటేటివ్ ఇష్యూ. ఓకే, ఎలా మీరు ఫండింగ్కి వెళ్తే సో సేమ్ పీపుల్ విల్ కమ్ అని. So before you talk to some other angel investors or VC investors, you want to find out whether they have already funded anybody with similar ideas. లేకపోతే ఏమవుతుందంటే వాళ్ళు they may listen to all your stuff and take the best part from your ideas and integrate it with people whom they have funded. So అందుకోసం ఏమవుతుందంటే యూ హ్యావ్ టు లుక్ అట్, ఇప్పుడు ఎవరైనా వెంచర్ క్యాపిటల్స్ దగ్గరికి వెళ్తున్నాము అంటే యువర్ ఐడియా, యూ ఫైండ్ అవుట్ పోర్ట్ఫోలియో కంపెనీస్, వాట్ ఆర్ దేర్ కంపెనీస్ డూయింగ్, వెదర్ ఇఫ్ యూ గో టు దిస్ పర్టిక్యులర్ వెంచర్ క్యాపిటలిస్ట్, వెదర్ దే ఆర్ ఆల్రెడీ డూయింగ్ సంథింగ్ ఇన్ దట్ ఏరియా. అన్లెస్ యూ కెన్, your idea can dovetail what they already have, then that will be fine. But if your idea is something similar to what they are already funding, then chances are if you go there, some amount of loss will take place. So competition to deal cheyadaniki ఆ లెవెల్లో first you have to do due diligence. You have to find out informally from various places that already not doing something in that area. But of course, it is also important to recognize chances are many of them will be working on, if it is something fundable idea, lot of people might be thinking about it, and you have to check, hey, are you early stage funder? Do you fund very early stage, or do you do it a little bit later after the proof of concept some of that has come about? What stage do you fund? And then have you funded anybody in this area? Are you interested in the area in which I am interested in? కొంచెం అలా ముందుగానే తెలుసుకుని ఇచ్చేస్తే that will make it easier, number one. Number two, before you go to these kinds of funding agencies like a venture capitalist, you might even want to think about some kind of what you call like incubators. There are several incubators that are available both in India as well as abroad. Incubator ki velte oka advantage emante, they may take some part of some stock from your company and some ownership they'll have, but at the same time they may have legal advice, they may have accounting advice, they may have some way in which you can bootstrap some of what you want to do with what other people are doing. You don't have to invest a lot of money in infrastructure. All of that, it becomes very, very convenient. So if you have an opportunity to be in an incubator, and if you feel they are reliable and they are a good incubator, and if they are already supporting a lot of startups, it would be a good thing to do. Why? Because there may be some other startups from there you may be able to take some of their ideas and your ideas, and then you can actually put together a workable prototype much more easily if you don't have to start everything from scratch all by yourself. Okay, that is at a low level. So competition, you may have to think about it at that level. Then next level of competition, let us say you already got funded, you are getting some product out, and you are no longer in a stealth mode. You are trying to get visibility, and then the journalists as well as other people are beginning to compare you with another well-known startup. At that time, it becomes competitively, you need to look at it and say, what is your unique value proposition, unique selling proposition or unique value proposition? So you need to be able to do what is called like a 2x2 matrix. This is where all my competition is, but on the right side, topmost, in the x-axis and the y-axis, the highest value for the lowest price or for the largest population, I will be able to provide that. So that means how to create those 2x2s in a way that it works. So, but at the same time, you need to really think about how you segmented the market, how you looked at it. Let me give you an example. This is a big startup. This is a well-known situation, but it became something very important. In 1990s, I had a chance to work with a company, a big company called Kellogg. They used to support they had a sports drink group, like a Gatorade antarmata. Gatorade, have you heard of Gatorade?
I do drink it, so
you do drink it. Okay, good. So, like for example, exercise, when you do something, it has got some salt and it has got some sugar. So, electrolyte solution laga undi, Gatorade is considered to be a very good sports drink.
Yeah.
Right. Gatorade in 1990s had become a very, very successful brand. So it was like something like 90% plus market share they had. So their competition was something called Powerade, which had less than 10% market share. It had become $1 billion market. Now they have to grow. How will they grow? So first they try to buy some other fruit drinks or fruit juices, some other type of thing. Some things actually failed badly, but they are already part of Kellogg, which has a lot of different things, like what you call, they had Aunt Jemina syrup, and then they had some kind of a oatmeal, and there are all kinds of cereals and all kinds of things are there.
Yeah.
So the big company is looking at it and saying, how do I grow these sports drinks? But these people felt, because they are so successful, because they were so dominant brand, they started looking at competition as, hey, my competition is really small. We are 800-pound gorilla in the marketplace. Anchippi, they were thinking about even going and creating drinks dispensers in sports gymkhanas or in college gymnasiums or, all kinds of places. Just like Coke or Pepsi have got their own dispensers, they wanted to create the dispensers. So at one time, when we were doing a seminar that I had to do on a leadership development seminar, so we asked a simple question, because they wanted to know who is the competitor. We already beat our competitors. Where do we need to look at and who is our next competitor? So one question we asked is, how many Gatorades do you drink? Hey, we work for this company. We probably drink about 3 or 4 per day. So in a week, we are talking about, easily we can drink up to probably between 20 to 30 of them. Okay.
Yeah.
Depending on what's going on. Okay, that's good. Now, how many Gatorades do you think your family members drink? You work for Gatorade company.
Mm.
Do you go pay? Do you go buy? Does your family go buy in the market Gatorade drinks?
Mm.
And do they, if you look at any of your family members, on an average, how many they drink?
Mm.
Even if you can take for free at home, how many of them non-employee, non-Gatorade employee will drink in their family?
Mm.
Then they said maybe it is 10 to 15. Okay.
Mm.
Then we asked, in a week, in addition to Gatorade, what other liquids do you drink and how much quantity?
Mm.
So coffee, okay,
Yeah.
maybe, large amount of it. In addition to
Yeah.
that, you drink tea,
Mm.
you drink fruit juices, and
Mm.
you drink maybe some chas or buttermilk or,
Yeah.
some other kinds of things. You may drink cola drinks like a Coca-Cola or Pepsi Cola or some other type.
Carbonated drinks. Yeah.
Right, right. Thumbs up. I don't know. Other type of things. Other type of soda drinks like Fanta,
Mm.
other type of things. Then we asked, in addition to that, what else do you drink? How about water? Do you drink water? And if so, how many glasses of water do you think you drink per day? And in a 1 week period, what will be the quantity of water you drink? So then let's create a circle. Let's put Gatorade, coffee, tea, fruit juices, other fizzy drinks, okay,
Mm.
milk, water, and maybe alcoholic drinks if you drink alcohol. There may be a variety of alcoholic drinks you may consume, beer, wine, whiskey, rum, gin, I don't know what are all the things, and Gatorade. Put them together. What percentage of the total liquid consumption do you do per week? When compared to that, what percentage of it is Gatorade? All their faces went small. Why? When you create nicely, you create for a business school discussion or for a startup discussion, if you create a nice competitive differentiation saying sports drink market is so many billions of dollars. Within that, Gatorade is 95% and we are already $1 billion revenues. That looks very good. When you look at all drinks market,
Mm.
you are nothing. You are less than 2%. Then we looked at it and said, okay, who all have big brands that are in the drinkable liquids market? You have alcohols. There are variety of alcoholic course beer, or in India, it may be Kingfisher, or I don't know what are all the things. And similarly, juices, Maja might be big one for people who likes mango juice, or there may be different kinds of things.
Mm.
And Coca-Cola or Pepsi Cola, these are some other things. When you look at what is the size of their companies and what is the size of their brand, when you look at it, suddenly they said, oh my God. So we are actually competing directly with Coke or Pepsi because they have even packaged water brands also are owned by Coke and Pepsi. So to a certain extent, they have fruit juices, they have fizzy drinks, they have cola drinks, they have water. When you look at it, actually, if you look at funding, if you look at distribution, if you look at bottling, and if you look at what you call dispensers, actually there are two big companies which are the giants in this. Those are Coca-Cola and Pepsi. So real competition is actually those people. Suddenly, people put their hands and said, oh my God, if we need to become big, either we need to merge with one of them because ultimately competition is going to be between those two giants. We are like thin, small kind of thing saying, I'm great, I'm great, I'm great. But those people laugh at you saying, emperor has no clothes. You think you are an emperor, but you are not. You are a Lilliput when compared to those two emperors. So then they decided, for the overall benefit of the company, not only that, they looked at all their products, they evaluated what Coke has got and what Pepsi has got, and then they sold themselves to Pepsi. And that's how, what you call, Indra Nooyi came in as a CFO, then she became the president, she became the chairman, and she became a very, very big person, Indra Nooyi. So competitive evaluation is something that differs at different levels. How do you do that? You have to look at it from what stage of company are you in. Like, let us say you are ready to launch your company. At that time, you look at competition in one way. If you are ready to be acquired, or if you are ready to be actually to go public, then you look at it in a different way. Then once you have gone public, once your market has saturated, if you are not able to grow, that is what is called sunset industries, sunset companies. Then you look at competition very differently. Like pharmaceuticals, for example, they look at biotechnology companies and they look at it and say, oh my God, these are the things which have got all the innovation, all the interesting things are going on. Pharmaceuticals in some respects are mature companies. They may not be sunset companies. They are in the mature company. So depending on the size of your company, size of your startup, depending on the penetration in the marketplace, depending on this reach of your product, depending on the number of products that you have in your pipeline, and depending on the size of the customers and the reach of your customers. Is it global reach or is it local reach? Is it all of them? Competitiveness is something that you have to define it at different, and every stage competition looks very differently. Does it give you a sense of how to broadly look at it? Because we are only addressing it broadly because you haven't asked me a specific question about a specific company at a specific time. Then I'll give you specific things. These are broad ideas that you can use in your mind to think about, where am I? What stage is my company? Who is my competition? You can look at it from that.
Yes, sir. Okay, clarity వచ్చిndi. Like when we always think about our solution, we feel like we are the best. But then when we look at it a zoomed out perspective, appudu ardhamautundi we are actually a very small piece of a very large thing. So that is a very good mindset if we can have it in the very early stages itself. So that manaku oka development perspective lo kani we are always there with hunger to be a better company. So దాని గురించి ఒక క్లారిటీ వచ్చింది సార్. సో ద నెక్స్ట్ క్వశ్చన్ దట్ ఐ హ్యావ్ ఇస్ our company's name is eSafe Solutions. So what do we basically do is college automation and school automation. So what extra administration work that these all the faculty members are doing, we are trying to automate it using machine learning and artificial intelligence. So this is what we are doing. So our solution is basically an application which people would be using. People as in students and as well as teachers. So primary perspective is to mark attendance. Attendance అనేది automate చేస్తున్నాము, and at a same point you will find out how many people are in the campus, and then hotspots create చేస్తున్నాము. So there is like ఒక స్విగ్గీ పర్సన్ మనం ఎలా అయితే ట్రాక్ చేస్తామో మనం ఇంటి వరకు వచ్చేంత వరకు, అలాగ ఒక స్టూడెంట్ ని ట్రాక్ చేసే ఫీచర్స్ ఇస్తున్నాం అనమాట, at a college level and at a school level. So this is our solution that we are trying to provide from our startup, and this is all automated. But మా స్ట్రక్చర్ కి ఉన్న ఒక లూప్ హోల్ ఏంటి అని అంటే, యూజర్స్ పెరిగే కొద్దీ మేము కేటగరైజ్ చేసిన క్లౌడ్ స్టోరేజ్ కానీ ఎవ్రీథింగ్ విల్ ఇంక్రీజ్. సో ఇన్ టర్మ్స్ ఆఫ్ ఫండింగ్ వీ హ్యావ్ టు గో ఇన్ లాక్స్ ఓన్లీ, ఈవెన్ అట్ ద ఇనిషియల్ స్టేజెస్ కూడా, స్టోరేజ్ పర్పసెస్ కి కానీ లేకపోతే అప్లికేషన్ ట్రాఫిక్ మేనేజ్ చేయడానికి కానీ. సో వెన్ వీఆర్ లుకింగ్ ఎట్ ఆర్ స్టార్ట్అప్ ఇన్ ఫండింగ్ ఆల్సో, we look in lakhs. We don't talk in terms of thousands, or like 1 or 2 lakhs wouldn't serve our purpose. So ఈ స్టేజ్ లో ఉన్నప్పుడు ఫస్ట్ ఇనిషియల్ ఫండింగ్ రైజ్ చేయడానికి we've approached our MSME. సో వీఆర్ ఎట్ ఎర్లీ స్టేజ్, సీడ్ ఫండింగ్ యాక్సెప్ట్ చేసే స్టేజ్ లో ఉన్నాం కాబట్టి, సో మా ఫర్మ్ ఏదైతే చేస్తుందో దట్ యూ పుట్ అవుట్ ఇన్ వర్డ్స్. సో ఈ స్టేజ్ లో ఉన్నప్పుడు హౌ డు వి స్కేల్ ఇట్? ఇనిషియల్ ఫండ్ రైజింగ్ సీడ్ తర్వాత నెక్స్ట్ వర్కింగ్ ఎక్స్పెన్సెస్ స్టార్ట్ అయిన తర్వాత వీ వుడ్ హ్యావ్ టు గో ఫర్ అ సెకండ్ ఫండ్ రైజర్. అప్పుడు ఎవరిని అప్రోచ్ అవ్వాలి? వెన్ వీఆర్ డన్ విత్ ఇనిషియల్ సీడ్ ఫండింగ్ అయిపోయింది, ఫ్యామిలీ నుంచి కూడా తీసేసుకున్నాం కాబట్టి నెక్స్ట్ వుడ్ బి మేబీ బ్యాంక్స్ కానీ VCs కానీ. సో హౌ డు వి గో అబౌట్ ది స్కేలబిలిటీ ఫ్యాక్టర్ ఆఫ్ అవర్ బిజినెస్?
Okay. So initially, obviously, you have to plan for network storage, when you cloud storage, all the things are AWS or whatever other things which you are looking at. So let us say you have taken $100,000 or $500,000 or $1 million, let us say, you raise from family and friends. See, family and friends, sometimes nobody wants to lose the money, but at the same time, they do it because they are connected with you. So they are giving it to you, but they are not giving it to the problem, or they are not identifying the process, and they are not looking at efficiency, and they are not looking at your competition. They are all giving it because they are your family or they are your friends. So at this moment, the problem, solution, competition, efficiency, chances of success, all of them are not professionally looked at. The moment you want to go to VC or bank funding, they are actually going to look at all of those. And also they will look at it and say, if by any chance there is a failure, how are we going to retrieve as much of money as possible from this, so that we don't have to declare a loss or say something like banks won't say this is a non-performing asset, NPA center. They will try to do everything they can. So that means the dashboards they need, the milestones you need to set for yourself and achieve. And they will also, even if they promise, let us say $5 million funding, they will not give you all of it at the beginning. They will keep giving it to you, like if your burn rate is per month $30,000 or whatever you talk about, they may only give you a month at a time. And at every month, they will ask you whether you have met the milestones according to what promises you made and what growth have you achieved, what revenues have you achieved, what quality improvements have you made, or the number of people whom you needed to hire, have you hired, have you delivered the kind of results to the customers that you promised. So everything becomes delivery based and milestone based. Okay. So they are actually constantly looking at it in terms of scalability, number one. So for example, some companies, like in Silicon Valley that I live in, there are different kinds of VCs. Some VCs like Kleiner Perkins or Vinod Khosla, or if you look at some of these people, they look at not necessarily a small return. So they don't expect you to become a unicorn, but they expect you to get a decent return for the money that they have put in. So depending on the problem that you are solving, depending on the size of the market, depending on your pricing, depending on your plan, and the quality of people whom you have, and the competition that you have. For example, there was one guy who came out of Facebook. Okay. And he looked at it and said, Facebook wanted to do this, but now Facebook is so big, this problem is so small, they're not actually going to do it unless it addresses something like, if they cannot sell 10 million versions of it, or 10 million copies of it, or 10 million customers, if they can't do it in a short amount of time, they're not going to do it. Yeah. But this is an interesting product. So what happens? they get out of Facebook,
Mm.
they take that narrowly defined but important problem, but they have their vision saying very clearly, we are actually going to build it on the infrastructure of Facebook. And our exit strategy is going to be explicitly to sell to Facebook.
Okay.
Okay. So we are not going to go public. We have no
Okay.
intention of becoming a company that will be a built to last. We
Mm.
are a built to flip company. We only have about 2 to 3 years. If we can reach this set of goals, and if we
Mm.
can really make this extra features available to Facebook customers and
Mm.
make life of Facebook easier. Of
Mm.
course, now we should say Meta,
Yeah.
right? Then I'm going to go with that.
Mm.
Some other people will look at it and say, I want to be Facebook for so and so. I want to be Facebook for companies. I want to
Mm.
be Instagram for this market, for farmers, or I want to be so and so. So, what they may want to do is take some features that are in either a B2C market, business to
Mm.
customer market, to take it to B2B,
Business to
or
business.
whatever is in the B2B, they want to bring it to B2C, or they want to do it in a government. They want to create some kind of a government portal, let the government fund it, and then you run it for them, and then you sell the technologies and later and then go on. Or some companies will say, we are not going to look at it. We are going to do cost plus company. We are going to be services
Okay.
company. Let
Mm.
somebody else pay the cost. We will become public utility company.
Okay.
Okay, like internet services is a public utility now, pretty much, for all
Mm.
practical
Yeah.
purposes, right? Cable companies have become public utility companies to a certain extent. They are
Yeah.
not public utilities. Nobody will consider them public utilities yet. But at the same time, if your cable and if your TV doesn't work, people will make more noise than sometimes that if the telephone service goes, because everybody has mobiles now.
Yeah.
So if the fixed line service goes, they don't make a big noise.
Yeah.
So now, what did I just tell you so far? I tried to say competition, you have to look at differently at different stage.
Mm.
Similarly, whom do you go for funding depends upon how are you thinking of exiting,
Mm.
and whom do you want actually to buy your company,
Mm.
or if you want to be a independently important company. I told you the story of Gatorade.
Yeah.
Gatorade wanted to be an independent company. Kellogg wanted to be an independent company. They were already multi-billion-dollar companies.
Mm.
But still, for sustainable presence in the marketplace, market cannot tolerate too many companies when they are big companies. So they had to sell themselves for $13 billion or $14 billion that to some other things.
Mm.
Similarly, Instagram got bought by Facebook.
Great.
WhatsApp got bought by Facebook. So like that, there are variety of things like game companies recently.
Mm.
Microsoft is buying something. Somebody else is buying something else. $50 billion companies, $70 billion. So market consolidation is something that is going to be something which everybody thinks about. Only thing is,
Mm.
everybody doesn't become a unicorn. Everybody doesn't have a chance to think like, okay, I will make it in next 2 years. I want to sell my company for $15 billion to Microsoft or Nokia or Google. That is a dream that we can go for. So depending on the dream that you have, depending on the closeness of your product. Oh, I want to sell to Cisco, or I want
Mm.
to sell to Juniper, or I want to sell to IBM, or I want to sell to Google, I want to sell to Microsoft. If you have that clarity, then you may be able to even get some support from Microsoft.
Yeah.
Or you may get some funding from Microsoft itself. Because many companies have got what is called a venture funding arms.
Yeah.
They fund, for example, like right now, there is an Apple iPhone 13.
Yeah.
Chances are iPhone 16, 17, they are already visualizing. And if they are looking for a new kind of screen, or if they are looking for a new kind of a metal, and if there are no such companies that are doing that kind of metals or that kind of processors, these people will go, they will support a mining company to mine that metal, or they will go, put $1 billion investment for some crystal company to develop that type of a crystal backing or a glass backing. So that means if you are in that business, you may be able to get funding by these big companies who need these unique, narrow, specific kinds of products that you make. That the funding may not come from bank or may not come from VCs, but they may come from people whom you are actually supplying the products to. Now you need to think about it a little bit more before you go to, like, from seed funding. Generally what people call is seed funding. Then you go for Series A. Series A is for venture capitalists.
Yeah.
Then after Series A, you need to really, not only from proof of concept, you need to sell some beta customers, or you need to have some real customers testing your products. And then scalability becomes important before you go to B. From B to C, you are having multiple products or multiple, what you call customers. You are managing multiple versions of the same product, or you are really looking at C. Then either you are going to sell your company to somebody, or you are going to go for public. At that time, what you need may be Series D. So depending on different stages, depending on your vision, depending on the market, depending on what it is, you have to think about buying your competitors or being sold to your competitors. The big company where you want to merge, or a big supplier with whom you are providing your products for, or a customer might want to buy you. So there are multiple complexities and questions you will have to address. For your company, if you are into machine learning and AI, you have taken it into education space, and so in that particular one, you need to look at it and say, is Baiju is the big one? Or, is that something like a company that you should think about? Or you think about who are the other players who are big players in there? Is there a way in which what I'm doing, can I build it on Baiju products, or that will support this? Or who are all the other competitors, large competitors do I have? Who might be able to fund it? Who might be interested in what I have got? One advantage of getting the customers or suppliers to fund you is their restrictions and their interest is going to be very different than banks' interest or VC's interest. But there are also going to be restrictions which come from there. There are so many wonderful examples I can tell you, but unfortunately, because I worked on some of the companies and I worked on some of the things, I'm restricted from giving specifics of any of the type of things. So I had to keep quiet in that. But I hope this gives you a bigger picture, and funding and some of it.
Yes.
It gives you, see, in these talks, I can only give you clarity to where to go, what to go. All of these have to be very specific and concrete, and specific mentors, specific people have to address these questions.
Yes, sir. I've come to a clarity regarding the funding stage also, like, since you've given it out for us, like the stages of it, and how we have to work for every stage, and and then prove ourselves and then go to the next stage. It's not about having all of it at once and then we are out there and then we are just there battling and then forgetting about the purpose that why we've come up with. So funding gurinchi oka clarity వచ్చిndi, sir, and at the same time we've even got a clarity about how to look at competition at a broader perspective, and not always having this overconfidence on us, and then talking about different ways that we can come up with for market penetration, or establishing ourselves out there. Chala clarity వచ్చింది. I think these episodes that we've talked about, I think it would have a lot more impact on me as an individual entrepreneur, because I see myself using many of the techniques that you've told me right now, how to look at the zoomed out perspective rather than just targeting a particular point. It would really help me a lot. Thank you so much, sir. Time spent chesi like trying to address the youth problems that you have come up with. Thank you so much, sir.
My pleasure. And we can also do, if there are more questions, and when it is possible, we may be able to do more episodes to
Yes,
address
sir.
on this, because these are all grounded, real questions that will
Yes, sir.
help you and other people like you. So I'm very
Yes, sir.
happy to be of assistance to you, and all the best to you.
Thank you so much, sir.
You are very welcome. Namaste.